Hey everybody, what's going on? Nicholas Nick in the house, founder of Lead Mining. Great friend of mine, Andrew, reached out to me and asked me if I'd be interested in speaking to his group. Super pumped to have this opportunity, Andrew. Thank you so much, bro. Andrew asked me to really brainstorm. Like, what if I could give 5 tips to everyone for scaling their business? What would they be? I love that challenge. I definitely took all night to think about it. Several martinis later, I had a lot of great content. So it was just amazing. Um, so I just wanted to cover, I'll tell you guys a little bit about me while we wait for some people to hop on. I'm the founder of Lead Mining. Lead Mining is definitely a premier all-American cold calling company. Every employee that dials for us is American. I do have 2 amazing VAs that live in the Filipinos, and they handle all my data. They do my order processing, they do my skip tracing, and everything else. And then all of the Americans actually do the cold calling, take the notes, and do all the programming. So great stuff has been happening. We average about 30,000 dials a week. Our current contact ratio is about a 10 to 15% of dials we make, we actually get on the phone. And then out of that, 7 to 12% of those actually end up generating into leads, which is great. Um, so that's a little bit of background on us. We're absolutely killing it. I got a great team of executives that make it possible. I've been blessed, and I'm almost completely removed, other than answering the phone, which a lot of you already know. If you call my phone, I definitely answer it, or we'll be talking soon. That's the one thing that I'm never going to stop doing, and that's answering the phone. And then I help lead the executive team, who just absolutely crushes it. I couldn't be more proud of the people who work for me. It's been great. So, anyways, 5 tips to scaling. How does it work? What happens? How do we get there? Number one, first and foremost, 5 tips to scaling. Number one, have a dialer. My goodness, the efficiency that a dialer is going to afford you is just going to really allow you to take it to the next level. I have some people who call me and tell me that they're hand dialing. I mean, it's not even worth it. And the time that you can hand dial 100 leads, you would have wished you would have spent the $175 and just busted it out in 45 minutes. Okay. And it's like the time saving ratio is ridiculous. So, first tip to scaling, having a dialer. Efficiencies can go all the way up to 150 to 200 dials per hour, and that includes generating leads. Okay. What's up, Ricky? What's up, Jay Paul? Man, how's it going, guys? Glad to be here. But yeah, so we're talking about, having a dialer. The first tip to scaling your cold calling operations: have a dialer, be effective. Okay. At We actually provide one at Lead Mining to our clients that are interested. A couple of you guys are already a dialer client, and we actually give you our algorithm and stuff. It's really interesting stuff. It dials up to 178 dials an hour, and you're not going to want to do all the steps it takes to dial something by hand. If you were to dial for something by hand, you literally have to pick up the phone, look at the phone number, dial it, 10 digits, talk on the phone, and then hang up and start the whole process over again for every individual dialer. What a dialer actually does for you is we load all the lists in for you. It all goes there. We match the fields up perfectly. Whenever you actually upload the list, you want to make sure that the address is the property address. That's what you want to be referencing out there. Okay, so you want to upload the list, upload everything, and then it's just going to run through them. It's going to call several people at a time in the background, and then whenever someone picks up, it's going to connect you on the phone with them immediately. All right. Now, more effective dialers actually will find a way, because sometimes more than one people will pick up the phone. So in ours, we created this custom algorithm that whenever someone picks up the phone, they get sent to a voicemail. That's me. That says, "Oh, hey, I'm so sorry. I don't have good service. I'll call you back in just a minute." And then my system knows 5 minutes after that call ends, it then calls them back and then picks up where we left off. So if more than one person answers, that's how dialers normally handle it. Now, if you're using your own dialer out there, please ask this question. Some of them don't have this strategy available, or you have to create it yourself, like I had to. But that's something that's very important. Dialers, it's all this is happening in the background. So it's dialing, connecting you with the live leads, and then it is just discarding, or in our case, we have an algorithm automatically plugged in. So everyone who doesn't pick up the phone, everyone who doesn't answer is actually queued up to be called 12 hours later. Now, of course, we're not working from 9 p.m. to 9 a.m. So it actually queues it up for the next day's worth of call sessions. This is something that's really important. So this is all things that a dialer does. And that's why the first tip, the very first tip to scaling your cold calling operation is having a dialer. Make sure it happens. You don't want to be doing this by hand. You're not going to be effective. It's going to be demoralizing, and it's going to cause you to quit way earlier than you normally would. Get a dialer, make the phone calls. Never in my life have I made a real estate cold call by hand. And I've myself made over 150,000, and never would I. The inefficiency is too much to handle. All right, number 2 is targeted lists. This is something else that we offer at Lead Mining. We can only provide absentees, uh, cash buyers, and high equity lists over there. But there's a lot of options out there. You can also bring lists over. Targeted lists, definitely an important thing. I recommend for cold calling that we start with absentees and vacants. Okay, those two have amazing conversations. People that have absentees and own vacant homes, and then maybe go into a more distressed style, tax delinquent, divorce, probates. Those are all ones as you go. Now, note that whenever you are targeting a list, the more distressed they are, the grumpier they're going to be. So, and it's no big deal, but you just have to understand that. The grumpier they're going to be, the less well the conversations are going to go. Okay. And again, not a big deal, just understand it. So, something happens when people become more distressed. And it's just important to be aware. You want to make sure that you're allowing them to be vulnerable, that you're allowing them to actually talk and not feel like, oh, you know what I mean? How many people, if a guy said, hey, I'm calling to buy your house, is really going to spill the beans on whatever they're going through in their personal life? I mean, I wouldn't. So just think about that. You really have to create the environment of vulnerability to get these people to talk to you, especially if they're distressed. If they're not distressed, you're calling an absentee or something. Some people, they just want to sell. They probably had their property rented for 35 years. They've made their money, or they do want to sell, and it's retail, and you've got some great strategies. Or they do want to sell, and the plumbing goes out on the house, and you get it distressed. So you just really never know what goes on out there. But targeted lists, definitely the second most important thing that you need to scale your operations. And then how you work those lists. I mean, if anyone here has ever played Risk before, the board game, that's how I kind of see working your targeted list. People all the time say, Nick, how are we going to track where you're going? And I recommend this to them. Okay, so on a whiteboard, you're going to write absentees, vacants, and cash buyers. And those are the 3 kinds of lists we're going to be calling. Now you're going to put zip codes underneath each of those 3. We're going to work one or a couple zip codes at a time until it's exhausted, and then we're going to move on to another zip code. Now, because after targeted lists, the next best thing is managing the data properly, and that's what I'm talking about here. It's making sure that you're managing your data so you're not double dipping, you're not calling people more than you should, you're not agitating people, and so you're really maximizing your use of that targeted list. So I really want you to think about what that looks like. Focus on 1 or 2 zip codes at a time, okay? And then just continue on. Just like the game of Risk. We're going to invade the whole city slowly. You're going to bin in every zip code, calling every property that meets a certain criteria, okay? So that's targeted lists. The second most important tip you need to scaling your cold calling operation. Number 3, accurate skip tracing. I can't tell you guys enough how important accurate skip tracing is. I always say the phone number is really more important than the list when it comes to cold calling. And that's because even a wrong number can generate into a lead. But a lot of people think that with the skip trace lists that, oh, well, this one gives me 6 numbers, so it's better. That's not always the case. One thing we found out at lead mining, because our skip trace at only 7 cents only produces one best phone number, is that you would rather call the one phone number 6 times than 6 different phone numbers once and have none of them or even one of those 6 be the right person. But you're going to be like, oh, I did my due diligence. I just called this lead 6 times. No, you called the right person once, and then you called 5 other random people once too, and that's it. And that's not really working the lead. One thing I say about people who have multiple phone numbers is those skip traces are amazing for RVM campaigns. Because you're just kind of taking a shot in the dark anyways. You might as well capture as many phone numbers as humanly possible. But working them in your cold calling program is a totally different story. In our system, we do not recommend anyone dial more than the first 2 or 3 phone numbers that are provided. So I want you guys to think about that. Don't spend your time calling a lot of these people. Take it from a guy whose cold calling company's almost dialed over 3 million dials. It is just daunting what is going on out there, and you don't want to spend all this time calling all these other people. It's like it's a different planet. Like you call them and like they're like rabbit people. They're not even human beings anymore. And you're like, is Joey there? And they're like, who's Joey? Like no one knows this fucking Joey guy. Okay. So don't waste your time cold calling all these phone numbers. Make sure you're focusing on the first 2 or 3. Accurate skip tracing, the third tip to scaling your cold calling operations. And I was just focusing on, you'd rather call one phone number 6 times. The next thing we're going to cover, number 4, is amazing systems, right? So amazing systems is the next most important thing to really scaling here. So the first thing is, I've already mentioned it a couple times, at lead mining and the algorithms that we actually have a follow-up system programmed to call everyone who doesn't answer 6 to 8 times. Okay, this is just vital. It is a huge system. You are leaving money on the table. We found out that we average 8 to 10% pickup ratio every time we dial across all of them. Okay, even on the 6th dial, 8% will pick up the phone. Okay, like that's crazy, which means that if I call a list 5, 6 times and I get 10% each time, by the time I'm done with that system, I've now contacted up to 50% of the entire list phone numbers. That is an amazing feat. Okay, and it's one of the most proven systems that we actually have at lead mining that really works for us. Now, is it true that when you call somebody again, there's a lesser chance they can pick up? That hasn't been proven to us. After the 4th time, you do get like a diminished return. But I will say the first 3 or 4, people pick up all the time and say things like, hey, I see you've been calling. Is everything okay? It almost sparks the curiosity. Now, the next thing we do with our amazing systems is we don't spam. What that means is that we never call anyone twice in the same day unless they got that hang up recording I was telling you about earlier, where it says, hey, I have a bad connection, I'll call you back. But other than that, we never call anyone twice in the same day. In most cases, we actually call people every other day on the follow-up, so we're not like this harassing entity. We want to spark curiosity, not frustrate them into picking up the phone. So keep that in mind too when it comes to amazing systems. All right. The next thing is inside of amazing systems is a two-parter, and this next one's big. And I actually created a document that I'm going to share with everybody right now. I'm going to type it into the comments. Okay, this is a document that I created at Lead Mining for all of my clients. Boom, thank you, Ricky. And that I've got for all of my clients. And it's actually a lead process checklist. I just threw it in the chat. I'd love for you guys to take a look. I get it for my clients. I wanted to make it for you today. Make sure I delivered it to everybody who's watching and ever does watch this. So check this out. So this is going to be step 2 on amazing systems, which is number 4 on 5 tips to scaling your cold calling operation. Okay, amazing systems, lead management checklist. So that's what I just shared here. It's a lead process checklist. The next best thing you can do after getting a lead and pursuing it 6 to 8 times if they don't answer, the next best thing you do is you create a system to follow for each type of lead that exists. Now, as the amazing lead generator that we are at Lead Mining, we've discovered that there's only 4 different types of leads that exist, period, amongst all marketing strategies. Okay? And those 4 are defined in this lead process checklist. But I'm going to cover it with you real quick. And the first one is going to be sellers. A beautiful animal. The first one is going to be sellers. So sellers come in 2 forms, retail and distressed. Okay, there's nothing wrong with the retail property, and if you're a really experienced investor, you're going to like it just as much as anyone else. Now, the next one is distressed. Okay, distressed, that's one's pretty easy. We all know how to handle that, but it takes a level of vulnerability to really get this out of the potential seller. But that's our first type of lead. The next type of lead is a buyer. Okay. The third one is a follow-up lead. Yeah, I'm not really ready to sell at this moment, but maybe I will in the near future. And the final one is a networking opportunity. Somebody who's interested in working with you, somebody who is like, maybe they're a locksmith or another realtor, and they're like, hey, yeah, I might know a couple people, someone that can connect you or help you out down the road. So those are the 4 different types of leads that you'll generate across any platform. This lead process checklist that I just put in here is actually going to be what I created, which you can copy and paste it into your own thing, edit it however you want. But for each of those lead types, I created what I would consider to be the optimal flow it should go through to take that stuff to a deal, right? So check out that, download that, and definitely let's make it happen. The way I see things is, your success is my success. If I could train you guys to cold call and close deals and make a lot of money, then my vision is when it comes time for you to outsource something as shitty as cold calling, because it definitely sucks. That's why we outsource it, even if we hire someone else, that you do end up, checking out Lead Mining, which of course I know you will. We are the best out there. So that's like my attitude on the free content and all the stuff I try to provide. All right. So the last and most important part and the 5 tips to scaling your cold calling operations is quality assurance. It is the most important thing that we do at Lead Mining is quality assurance. We have got all these systems and processes in check. I have something called Hubstaff that takes pictures of my employees' computer screens every 3 minutes. Then I've got one of my executives who go through the screenshots every day to look for an opportunity for maybe improvement or coaching, or maybe we learn something that we can then teach to somebody else. Quality assurance step number 1. What are these people doing? The other thing our system does is that we do at Lead Mining is I've got another executive who listens live to dialers all day long. It's about 35 hours a week while he runs the entire operations. He's listening for accuracy, questions, persistence, eagerness, making sure that they're actually doing what they need to be doing. Now, None of this stuff is underneath a guise of do this or else. My team has amazing morale, and it's important to really structure this in a framework that you can make work. And I can help you with that as well. But all of the standards that we have, they know allow them to be the best in the world. So they don't look at it as a negative. They look at it as this is what it takes. Just like an Olympic gymnast, they're just held to a higher standard. And I ask to be held to that higher standard as well. So it really helps. So as I cover some of these quality assurance things with you, I don't want you guys to think that I'm beating my employees over the head or I am making it feel in any type of negative energy, because I don't. Everything's positive. If we listen to an employee and they are doing a great job, we have to tell them they're doing a great job. If we listen to an employee and we think they've got room for improvement, we have to tell them where we think they need to improve. That's our responsibility. Even as the employee, I make them share feedback that they feel about me and about them. So tell me how you feel about this feedback. It has to be a mutual understanding. So getting further into it, we've got one executive who listens all day long for all the right questions, persistencies, and to making sure that they're taking leads to the right places. This guy is amazing. Then I've got another person, my director of training. She's absolutely wonderful. She actually audits 2 calls of every dialer every week. Now, if those 2 calls are short, she goes up to 10 minutes across however many calls it takes to listen to 10 minutes of recorded calls per dialer. Then we created this grading system about what's most important to us about the information that they capture. Using her audit form, she then grades each employee, does it, and then provides a 30-minute feedback session to them where they can talk about how they can improve, how we can help them improve, and how we can all grow together. This is all quality assurance, okay? So that's call auditing, that's live call listening. We have the screen capture software. It's really important to your people to know that it's a clear communicated thing, that there's no wiggle room for any kind of funkiness. I'm a very clear communicator with my people. Guys, this is how it should look. This is what it should look like. Let me know if I'm wrong. In the meantime, I'm expecting it to look exactly how I've laid out. So the next part of the quality assurance tip number 5 in scaling your cold calling operations is KPIs. One thing I recommend that you guys search and that we actually do here at Lead Mining is we track how many dials we've made, how many connections we've had, and then how many of those turn into a lead. Another thing that I check behind the scenes is dials per hour and leads per hour. Okay, these are 2 very important numbers to make sure that we understand what is happening. Okay, we have to track our leads per hour, track our dials per hour, and then we'll know how effective and how efficient our team is being. My team knows that we only clock in to dial. There's nothing, I don't pay you to go to the bathroom or anything else. I can only, unfortunately, pay you to work. And that's okay, and it's just the way it works. So then I know that all the time that we pay them is direct time, and I divide our numbers for the week, total dials, by the total hours that they've worked, and I get my dials per hour. I take the leads and divide it by the total hours they've worked, and I get my leads per hour. All right? These are very important stats to track as you understand your team's performance and you're able to really maximize it. It's important that you never stop asking your team to perform better. It's important that you identify when people stop innovating their position. This is all the kinds of things that falls into quality assurance. What gets measured gets moved. All right, guys, so those are my 5 tips to scaling your cold calling operation. I'm glad I can provide value to you all. I'll take the next couple minutes. I'll tell you a little bit about lead mining, what we can do, how we work, and then how we can maybe serve you. Lead mining does a plethora of things. I really wanted to take over all things dialing. So, one thing that we do is we do list pulling, as I mentioned earlier. List pulling is only 5 cents per record, and I can pull absentees, cash buyers, and high equity, which means 1,000 records is only $50. The next thing we do is skip trace, which a lot of you can attest that are probably watching right now, is the skip trace is 7 cents per search, and it is very accurate, and you're going to get great results. We will put you on the phone with the right person who owns the property. Now, one caveat to that: whenever you call people, you never want to be asking about the name. You want to go right. Are you the owner of the property address? Okay. And you just want to go there. Names can be triggering. It could be a dad's name. The dad could be dead. It could be a brother. Don't even go there. Focus on the property. If they say they own the property, guess what? You got the right person. Anyways, back to skip tracing. 7 cents per record. Definitely an industry low, and our performance is great. I know Andrew's definitely gone on to using us full time, and we're thankful to have his business, and he's been getting stellar results. In addition to skip tracing, we offer cold calling. We have an all-American cold calling team. Everyone who works for me is stellar. We go through all those quality assurance techniques that I told you about. We watch them, we grade them, we pat them on the back, we help lift them up. A lot of great things happening. So when they're calling for you, their morale is really high. They're really loving the environment, and then ask them to perform well for you. We do sell dials in 3 different packages: $120 for 250 dials, $200 for 500 dials, and then $750 for 2,000 dials. And that last one is weekly only for the more high volume guys. We can do any other denominations, more or less, anything like that. Just reach out to us. We can make something work. Our system is proven. Everything I covered with you today is exactly what we do. So I'm not really going to go into it that much more, because every tip I gave you is exactly what we do at Lead Mining. So guys, go out there and crush it. Reach out to me if anyone needs anything. I'll plug our website here inside the comments, and I'm here for you. If anyone has any questions about the training today, or anyone needs anything, Nicholas Nick is here for you. Andrew, much love, bro. Thank you so much for having me. Let's do this again soon.